Thank you. Thank you. Lauren, thank you so much for the introduction. I appreciate just the invitation to be here. I'm actually humbled because I don't think of myself as a global national influencer at all, and that's what you all are here for. If an influencer of any level, I believe that I try to be an influencer at the business level, at the ground level, with the people that I work with on a day-to-day basis, with the City of Boston and the employees of the City of Boston. And I just want to welcome everybody here from wherever you traveled from to Boston, to Andover. It was great to hear the governor come up here yesterday and cut the ribbon. It was fantastic. Congratulations to Schneider making their presence here. And we do believe that they're going to be a great partner with the City of Boston. This facility is fantastic. I love it. I'll talk a little bit why I think it's great in a few minutes. But as I drove up here, just admiring the park and parking in the Boston One spot, you know, out front, and I'm trying to figure out whether I'm going to get a sign up for a massage after this or do the detox in the afternoon. I'm not quite sure, but I know I've seen it on the billboards out there that it's available to those who are here. So take advantage of that if you get a chance. So greetings again. We believe Schneider's move here to Andover and to the greater Boston area really aligns with the city's continuing pursuit for energy efficiency and really understanding how we can take the energy that we use in the city and reduce it both on a use, a cost, and a greenhouse gas emissions perspective. The City of Boston itself, more than 15,000 employees. We have about a little over 16 million square feet of property. We're the largest property owner in the City of Boston itself. We have over 2,700 utility accounts, and we have nearly a $50 million energy spend annually. So that's that, including our properties. Again, we manage a lot of information. We manage a city. The way the city traffic flows, we have a vast park system. We have, 60,000 street lights. We have close to 2,700 gas lamps. All of these assets, I like to call them energy assets, are using energy and cost money. And we're actively trying to get our hands wrapped around that. And again, Schneider, I believe, is helping us to do that. In 2013, I think Lauren said this, the American Council for Energy Efficiency Economy ranked Boston as the leading U.S. city on policies to advance energy efficiency. And we are proud of that, and we are going to try to achieve that again this year with our partnerships with the utilities, with the policies that have been put into place, and just our active ground-up work in the City of Boston to do energy efficiency. I want to talk a little bit about how the city is a little bit organized and structured and how I work. Of course, we are led by fantastic Mayor Marty Walsh. The City of Boston elected a new mayor this year. Prior to that, Mayor Menino was the mayor of the City of Boston for 20 years. And I came to work for the city about 3.5 years ago. So I was in the previous administration to learn how that administration worked. And with the new administration coming in, we believe that this is a moment of change for the city, a moment of great change to take advantage of what Lauren talked about, is saying we see a transformation happening here in the City of Boston, and we want to be a part of that. And Mayor Walsh wants to be a leader in this area. Of course, my direct report is Chief Brian Sweat. He's the Chief of Environment, Energy, and Open Space. When I started working for the city, my department was called Environment and Energy Services, but the new mayor put his brand on that and added open space. And Brian is fantastic. He's been leading us and challenging us on how we can take energy efficiency to the next level to keep our status ranking of #1. And of course, I work for him. My name, again, Todd Isherwood. My long title is Energy Efficiency and renewable energy project manager. And so I try to reduce it down to just energy manager, and I work in the environment department. A couple of my colleagues here are here today. Brad Swing, who's the Director of Energy Policy for the City of Boston, and Christine Dennehy, who is representing the Department of Innovation and Technology. And I want to recognize them because I would not be here without them, without their help, without Brad's sort of direction and support for building the infrastructure that's needed in the City of Boston, in my office actually, and then Christine as well on the IT side, and really supporting the technologies that we need to get a handle on energy efficiency. Of course, a little bit of history about how we got here. When I was hired 3.5 years ago, I was hired as a temporary position through some air grant funds. I was brought in as the energy efficiency manager, and a colleague of mine, Joe LaRusso, was brought in as the energy efficiency finance manager. And we were challenged to take the concept of energy efficiency and integrate it into our business process. And the only guiding principle that we had at the time was the 2011 Climate Action Plan. And looking into that plan, which is published on our website, you'll see the creation or the call to create the Municipal Energy Unit. And since then, since 2011, the unit has grown. It has gained great influence within the City of Boston. And we are nearing now a 3-year redo of our Climate Action Plan. The 2014 Climate Action Plan is near completion and will be published by the end of this year. So backing up a little further, Mayor Menino issued an executive order related to climate action in 2007, and that really set the goal for my office on some targets. We needed to reduce, the mayor challenged us to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions 25% by the year 2020 and 80% by the year 2050. Those are some pretty big goals, and we're thinking as we come in here, well, how do we reach these goals? Quite honestly, it wasn't too hard, but we needed a little bit of help. And there was a climate action committee that was created out of the executive order to make some recommendations for the City of Boston. One of them was creating a building energy disclosure ordinance. And as you may or may not know, that ordinance will be enacted. Actually, it has been enacted, but the first reporting of that building energy disclosure ordinance will be Monday, September 15th. Secondly, the recommendation was to sort of building level prioritize sort of do a prioritization of our buildings and benchmark those. Look at our buildings and how are they performing on an energy level. And of course, the creation of the energy management unit. And so those are some pretty good directions that were written down on a piece of paper and were given to me. And I'm thinking, how am I going to communicate energy efficiency within the City of Boston? How am I going to get into the different departments? Because quite honestly, energy efficiency, as I began to talk to people that I work with, my colleagues in my first year, I'd get this glazed look over their eyes. And energy efficiency, quite honestly, it's not sexy. And we needed, again, a little bit more help. And so the team decided to come up with a branding strategy internal to the City of Boston that we could take out to the street called Greenovate Boston. You may have heard of the term, but it really is taking a sustainability message, more like a corporate sustainability plan, and putting a brand to it and giving it some color and some pop and actually taking it out onto the streets to talk about what we can do, how can we influence transportation, recycling, how can we make impacts on energy, how can we reduce our water, not just for the City of Boston, for the municipal operation, but for the city in general as well. And so that has helped create a message within the city that I've been running with and I've been using within municipal operations. Again, a little bit about my office, the Municipal Energy Unit. I am just responsible for the municipal footprint of the City of Boston. I am an internal employee. I am an employee, but I very rarely get out there onto the street and talk to the businesses and stuff like that. My business is talking to facilities managers, budget managers, capital construction managers within the City of Boston who operate the City of Boston. And my unit is comprised of me and my finance manager, Joe LaRusso. When I stepped on board with the City of Boston, I was fresh to the city, but I needed some institutional knowledge. And Joe LaRusso, my associate, who's the finance manager, worked in the Treasury Department for 17 years. So our partnership there, right there off the bat, was a great partnership to dig down, how do we spend our money, how do we borrow our money, and how can we take that money and focus it in on energy efficiency projects that will help operate the city better over the long term. And of course, my first year stumbling around was to try to figure out, well, how does municipal operations work? And where are the opportunities? The city is, again, made up of 10 different departments. We have fire departments, we have police departments, we have the oldest public school system in the country. That alone comprises 12 million square feet, and we have buildings that are over 100 years old in that portfolio, to where we are now beginning to design the first STEM school in the city of Boston too as well. So we have a wide range of buildings, but how do we build those buildings and how do we operate those buildings? That was my charge coming into the city of Boston, so we could figure out how do we find out where there are energy opportunities. To be able to do that, we really had to build partnerships, and this is where the term influencer comes into play. I really had to take the skills from my experience working in the real estate industry, working in architecture, and working in sustainability, and build relationships, build partnerships within the city of Boston. We have a great relationship with our gas provider, National Grid, and a great relationship with Northeast Utilities, NSTAR, on our electricity. We've developed 3-year memorandums of understanding of how we can achieve and work together to take advantage of the Mass Save programs and the rebates and incentives that are here in the Commonwealth and apply those to construction projects within the city of Boston. So with that, having that money come in here, we've had to convince our budgeting department on how we plan to take that money and reallocate it, almost revolve it back into construction projects. And the Municipal Energy Unit was really an entity within the city of Boston, one of the first entities that bridged the gap in our budget department between our capital operating budget and our operational budget. Those two generally didn't talk to each other, and if you go out into the private sector, you'll see pretty much the same thing. The OPEX and the CAPEX don't necessarily talk to each other, but we felt it was vital for us to be able to have them start thinking about total cost of ownership, life cycle cost analysis, and how the money that they're spending up front is going to affect the long-term operation. And that's where we believe that operational technology is very, very important. Of course, I dug down deep into the capital construction process. How does the city of Boston procure construction? Because it will help us to understand how we can integrate energy efficiency into those capital construction processes. Of course, we have 10 different departments and we have 10 different facilities managers doing 10 different things, and having to bring them all onto the same page about how currently they operate their operations, their facilities, and how we can change that, how we can influence that to better operate their facilities, to reduce their energy spend, to reduce their energy use, and to actually make their lives easier by implementing energy efficiency technology. Of course, one of the ways that we were able to do this, and this was a big change for the city of Boston, was implementing Green Communities Act projects. Now, the Green Communities Act, if you're not familiar with that, it is actually a new law on the books of Massachusetts that Governor Patrick signed into law back in 2008. And it was a way for the city, at least from my perspective, to take what was a common construction procedure in the private sector, design, build, and performance contracting, into municipal public procurement. It was foreign to the city of Boston, and quite honestly, still today, I run into some people who are unfamiliar with the concept of design, build, or performance contracting. Most construction projects within the city of Boston are design, bid, build, and that's a very long and slow process. And so the Green Communities Act opened up a new door for introducing energy efficiency and energy operations on a very quick basis to get it into municipal and state agency projects. And where our municipal energy units had to champion this procurement effort within the city departments, within the capital construction departments. And I have to say, the first 2 years, Joe and I spent most of our time just stumping around the different departments, including our including our legal teams, to understand that, this is a new law. If we follow it right, we're not going to go to jail, And then that was a problem, is that the city of Boston was so used to doing construction one way for many decades that when introducing this new procurement law, people were afraid, and that was an obstacle for us. But we believe, and I have to say, in the first 4 years, we've grown a lot. We've realized that since then, we've instituted and implemented well over 100 energy projects. And now that we have these projects in the bucket and have proven to the employees and to the staff and to the operations managers that they are working, they are saving, now is the opportunity for us to begin to measure our energy use and measure the cost associated with that. And that's where Schneiders Partnership comes into play right now. We felt after 2012, after convincing the city's CFO to make my job permanent, we saved enough money in our first year to say, okay, it's a no-brainer. We'll keep you on board. And I have to lift up the city's, the mayor's cabinet staff, and them really putting the trust into us to take these measures to the bank, literally, and show that our jobs were important. And so the first thing out of the gate, once we were become permanent, was to say, okay, we need to gather the data. We need to gather our energy use and our cost. And in 2012, we took a strategic assessment of enterprise energy management systems and how other municipalities across the country, if they're using them and to what level they're using them, and what was the business case for that. And we determined from a business case standpoint that, yes, it is smart for us to actually measure our energy. It almost seems like a no-brainer probably to most people in the office, but it took a lot of convincing. Nothing happens quickly in the city of Boston. A lot of people have to be convinced at many different levels. So we took our time. We took about 8 months to a year doing the strategic analysis, presenting it at many levels, and then winning the budget, if you will, to begin to now measure our energy use. And now we're beginning to manage it through all these different systems, through our different departments, and we're ready to put some action to that. So, what is our current action plan? Right now, we're taking the recommendations that we were given from the Climate Action Committee and beginning to, with the Building Energy Reporting Disclosure Ordinance, benchmark our city buildings. We're using Energy Star Portfolio Manager as the baseline to really start scoring our buildings. If you go on to EPA's website, you'll see 321 of our buildings have been loaded up to Energy Star Portfolio Manager. By the way, through Resource Advisor, through Schneider Electric's platform. We were happy to partner with them. It was kind of a touch and go there because it was a very new two-way communication through Schneider's platform to Energy Star Portfolio Manager, but it worked, and we reported all of our buildings back on May 15th. That was the original intent, was to report all the city buildings. City Council got in there about a week ahead of time and then put a hiccup on it and gave sort of a three-month sort of a delay on it. So September 15th on Monday, we should see well over 750 buildings reported, including the city of Boston, which has already reported. That will begin to help us prioritize energy efficiency on our different projects that are out there. We are currently working not only internally with ground-up buildings. We have a couple of schools that are coming online. We have an an emergency management services building coming online. The Public Works Department has a new building coming up. We have a lot of ground-up buildings coming in, but we also have a tremendous amount of buildings that need to be renovated and just brought up to modernization. And we're constrained on human resources, and we're constrained on our finances too. So it's so vitally important for us to prioritize how we can take energy efficiency and embed it into these projects to help the prioritization and help the capital planning process. And we're beginning to do that, and we're hoping that the information that we pull out of Resource Advisor, out of Schneider's platform, will begin to help us take the business analytics out there, prioritize our capital projects, and begin to see the return on investments and make the case between the budget department, both on a capital spend and on an operational spend, help bring and level out our project prioritization. Of course, one of the things that we were doing this year while we were rolling out the Resource Advisor was also getting ready to take that information and feed it to energy service companies that will begin to integrate energy audits into our capital planning process. That's one of the things that again, it seems like a no-brainer in the private sector, but in the city of Boston, doing energy audits, specifically doing ASHRAE Level 3 energy audits all the way down to remote energy audits and recommissioning buildings, was a foreign concept, and we were taking that and we had to sell that to our colleagues in the capital construction group and the facilities manager, and understand how doing those exercises on energy audits and recommissioning will help their lives in the long run, will help reduce our, in the end, reach our goals for reduced carbon emissions from a mayoral standpoint, but from a facilities management standpoint, having buildings that operate better, having remote capabilities to read these buildings, understanding their health on a day-to-day basis, hopefully on a minute-to-minute basis as IT and OT converge, will help the operation and the efficiency of the city operations, and it will only help our constituents, it will only help those who the city of Boston is serving. We are introducing, and we're trying it out with the schools, the retrocommissioning exercises, and it's interesting once you start doing deep dives into buildings that are 10, 20, 30, 40 years old, how ugly things are beneath the surface. It's easy when you have a portfolio of 12 million square feet to turn a blind eye sometimes to some projects, but energy is the ultimate exposer, if you will. And how our buildings are operating, especially as we benchmark them and especially as we dig deep to see how buildings are operating and start connecting the energy assets and our meters to our enterprise system, it's helping the reality of where we are in our building operations. We hope to take the information out of our enterprise energy management system and then begin to feed that data to our facilities managers to optimize our building automation systems, to do what seems practical on the surface of, properly turning a building on, when it should be turned on, when it should be turned off, when the night setback should be set. Right now, it's very difficult with the limited staff, and we are really relying on the IT and the convergence of IT and OT to help our limited staff take those, what seem simple procedures and make them even simpler, if you will. One last thing I wanted to mention here about my other half of my responsibility is that I am also the Renewable Energy Project Manager. One of the first things that I was able to do coming into the city of Boston was to actually introduce or take over from Brad, as a matter of fact, 2 large solar array projects within the city of Boston. The city really wanted to contribute from a renewable energy source a footprint into its portfolio. And I spent some time deploying a couple of modest-sized solar arrays, each about 100 kW, one on our archives building in West Roxbury and another one in our central maintenance facility near downtown Boston. And that was an experience, again, for me to build build a reputation that I could actually do a construction project within the current construction procedures of the city of Boston, and convince them that I knew kind of what I was talking about from a project management standpoint. And that after deploying those 2 projects were about a year long, I spent most of my time in the last 2.5 years doing energy efficiency and developing an energy strategy. Well, what's on the future for us right now is actually deploying more solar in the city of Boston. And we are currently right now developing the contract vehicles internally that are friendly to the city, and issuing what we hope to be power purchase agreements at the beginning of the year for about 1 to 2 megawatts of solar. We're currently doing a feasibility study on all of our buildings, our 321 buildings, to find out where the best buildings are to deploy solar, have a developer come in and actually, we believe, deploy at least, 2 megawatts a year is about what we could probably handle from an operational standpoint. And as we deploy that out, really, again, further reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by relying on alternative energy. And that will be coming out soon. We're excited about that. And again, what will this all do for us? Again, we hope to, through our energy efficiency and our renewable energy strategy, begin to understand more and more granularly how much energy we are using, how we can manage that energy, and then what's the next action plan that comes up 3 years from now. We will probably look a lot different. We'll be even more energy efficient, and we definitely hope to be an influencer on a state level, on a global level, if you will, on a national level. And that's our goal. Again, I'm humbled to be here, to be just a small part of what's going on here. And again, thank you to Schneider for inviting me up here to speak. Here's my contact information. You can follow me on Twitter. I do have a Twitter account. I do try to regularly tweet out. And if you have any questions regarding a little more deeper dive into how the city operates, there's my contact information in my email. So, Chris, I think.
Thank you very much, Todd.